I'm a victim to the algorithm, but
Same.
serve me up some crazy shit.
I have to like check my what am I talking about, because they're always listening.
Yeah.
/ what am I looking up
Zuck is listening.
that they're serving me up these things?
I'm getting so many like pound of ground beef like meals, like when they serve them up on like the wooden cutting boards and pouring honey on them and shit.
Totally. Wow.
So has me thinking about eating a bunch of ground beef.
Yeah, part of me wants to look at Jen Batchelor's phone and like see, what do you get fed? Like what type of content?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's all the biohacking stuff, and then some fringe Japanese, like all kinds of like contraptions.
You go deep into ingredients and stuff. Like I think.
Who's your favorite biohacker?
Oh, it's such a good question, because there's so many interesting ones now out there.
I only know one. That guy. What's his name? Huberman? Is he a biohacker?
Huberman's in the club, but I feel like he's also he's like holding his own.
I don't really know what that guy does. You live in Texas though, so he's like he's the mayor, right?
He runs in Malibu.
Town? You live in Malibu?
No, he does.
Oh, he lives in Malibu.
I think that's like a fun fact nobody knows. Sorry to blow up your spot.
Fuck.
I thought he worked at Stanford. I thought he was in Palo Alto.
That's what I thought. I thought he was in Berkeley. Dr. Huberman, please, in the comments. Tell us where you really live, bro. We want to come and say hi.
Are we fans? Are we
big fans?
Big fans.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, big fans.
The only video I did watch of his was the video where he talked about drinking.
Right.
And that video is very effective.
I think that is probably one of not only his most viewed and shared, but like last year, one of the most viewed and shared podcasts on YouTube, period.
Yeah. No, it's good.
I certainly get it. I get it like
good
every
for
week.
The movement.
So it is very good for the movement. I literally get it sent every week. Did you know this? I'm like, do you know what I do?
You're like, bitch, I invented this shit.
I've been here a minute, guys.
I've been saying this. Alcohol is bad.
Alcohol will ruin lives and diets. By the way, I lost like 15 pounds when I stopped drinking.
You know what? I hate people who say that, because they're like, "Oh, I stopped drinking, I lost all this weight." I'm like, I'm not drinking at all, and like that doesn't do anything for me. I'm not. My addiction is food, and so I have to stop eating to. It's a really double-edged sword for me.
But honestly,
the
my
thing I
problem
love
was
is the thing that's preventing me from losing
drinking made me love and crave more food.
Yes,
well, it keeps you going, yeah.
And nothing is better than like a bacon, egg, and cheese after you had like a.
Well, that and then like I'm also very Italian. I'm not Italian at all, but I'm very Italian in the way that I like to eat when I'm drinking, and vice versa, right? So it's like I always have to have something in my hands, and usually at a restaurant, it's going to be wine.
Jen is a stage name, right? You're like Juliana Maria, sort
That's
of
right.
Gucciano.
Yeah, it goes on and on. I think it's like 5 or 6 names.
You're from Jersey, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So this is not the show. This is the pre-show for the show.
Fantastic.
Which, to be honest, I always wish was the show, because it's much more fun. So maybe, Kevin, let's change the concept. Actually, we'll do the whole pre-show, and then we'll just do the bio at the end, and we'll just add it in. Well, let's just do the show. I do, unfortunately, have a bit of a hard stop. I rarely do, but I have to get a rental car because I'm going to Philadelphia tonight. So it's a whole thing.
What time is it now?
It's 4.
It's 4?
I think we could do an hour.
You got an hour.
That seems like enough.
That's funny.
Yeah, I can do it.
Well, let's just get into it then.
Yeah.
No, let's keep doing the pre-show.
Let's stop talking about how much time you have, and it's already ticking down. We can keep a big pre-show.
Has Kevin been in meetings with you before?
It's almost like Kevin knows me.
Almost like
he knows my sort of my tells.
Well, we'll just be sitting here talking in circles for an hour, and then it'll be like, oh, I gotta go.
3, 2, 1, have a play. Kevin!
What's up?
Oh my God, I'm so loud in my headphones.
Do you want me to turn you down?
Can you turn me
You're
down?
not even all the way up, actually.
A first in front and center history. Turn me down in the headphones.
Wow.
Oh,
wait, no, that was me. Sorry. You're all the way up.
Kevin, we got a guest. Can we turn me back up a little bit, actually? Not that low. You're crazy. A very, very, very special guest, a champion of our studio. Jen Batchelor is the creator and chief Euphorics officer of Euphorics, a science-backed line of functional beverages designed to enhance mood and reduce cravings. Trained in Ayurvedic medicine, Batchelor specializes in the intersection of psychotropic herbs and the psychology of trauma and addiction.
Damn.
As a third-generation distiller of wildcrafted spirits, Batchelor's mission is to evolve the 10,000-year-old ritual of social drinking into an act of better being for people on the planet. Her company, Kin, was the first non-alcoholic beverage brand to bring the concept of brain care to the bar and has successfully replaced over 40 million ounces of ethyl alcohol since it launched in 2018. I almost got it right without a fucking mistake. Jen Batchelor,
it's also
welcome.
That's the street name.
I was right.
You're right.
All right, fine. 3, 2, 1. Kevin, Jen Batchelor is great. Okay, we're not gonna do it again.
No.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
How old is this bio? At least 3, 4 years old. Where did we find this, Kevin?
Did.
I think you found it.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
I'm the one.
I think I have a real one now.
A real
but that
one.
covers a lot. I wrote this one.
I think of that. That one's a great one.
No, it's great. Can we start with the hard-hitting questions? Ayurvedic medicine.
Ooh.
Put us on. What does that mean?
Ayurvedic medicine. So Ayurveda is a sister science to yoga. It's a well-documented, at least for 3,500 years, science that covers so much ground, y'all. Like it's not, so if Ayurveda is how to be in your body, how to strengthen your body, to strengthen your mind, Ayurveda is like how to do everything else. Mm-hmm. It's literally, it translates to the science of life. And so, I mean, I even 3 years in learned that there was a plastic surgery book of Ayurveda that's like literally dates 3,000 years. So they cover everything. They cover alchemy, using metals, herbology, psychology. So it's like the bits that make life worth living and how to just optimize. It's the original biohacking Bible.
So it's Dr. Huberman of the past.
That's
is what
right.
You're saying?
The
okay.
OG.
The OG Dr. Huberman.
Yeah.
What I love about having friends and people that I've known for a long time on the podcast is I actually get to ask them like questions that I didn't know about them.
Yeah.
That I read online. Jen, where did you grow up?
How did you? We never covered this.
I think we just jumped right into like work and design and kin and all these other exciting things that you were talking about. I don't think we ever were like,
yeah, we were going fast back in the day.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
really
right,
were.
Jen.
We were breaking shit.
Yeah, Jen. Fun fact before we get into where you're from, Jen, obviously, Kin Euphorics is her brand, and when we met through my wife, and you said, Alex, I have this beautiful brand, Kin. And I got 3 weeks to print my packaging. So we didn't really get into much. We were just like, okay, cool. What's the brief? When do you want to see designs?
Yeah.
So we can kind of go back.
Let's go back.
Where's Jen Batchelor born? Where on planet Earth?
So I'm born in Miami.
Okay.
My mom is a Cuban immigrant. She came here in the 70s. And that's not where she landed. I know there's like a misnomer that a lot of Cubans just go to Miami and stay in Miami forever. She actually was in Jersey and then came back down, met my dad. And then my dad went into the Air Force, and that's sort of where Jen came to be. Not to talk about myself in the third person.
I was going to say, are we talking about ourselves in the third person? Because Alex would get fucking
that is kind of a 10,000 foot view.
Yeah.
So far out, you're in third person.
That's right.
That's sick.
Born there, lived there briefly, and then my dad being in the Air Force sort of transitioned to commercial aviation and ended up working for Saudi Airlines, which is why I ended up in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia for almost a decade of my life.
What years were you in Saudi Arabia?
This was literally in like the height of the Gulf War. Yeah, the first Gulf War. So early 90s.
Kevin, when did the Gulf War happen?
Early 90s.
Early 90s,
yeah.
That's right. Okay,
and then you could say it sort of was bookended by the following one, right? So just before 9/11.
So you grew up in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And your father was a bootlegger.
So he had a day job.
Okay.
Working for the airline.
Okay.
However, and he wasn't the first, right? So my grandfather was sort of the first.
Yeah.
My dad got into brewing his own moonshine, beers, and wine. And he was really good at it. I mean, he was doing it at scale and eventually just became sort of like the go-to, not only like provider of such provisions, but he actually like had a bar in his house where he would host people. And that's my dad was there a few years before my mom and I went out there. So that's sort of how we found him. He was
making moonshine for the peoples.
The consummate host, yeah, and just like providing a service. I mean, looking back, obviously there's such a karmic tie to what he was doing and what I'm now doing, but net, what we share a love for is hosting and building community and having just like really deep, rich friendships. And so I think that's really, at the end of the day, what he was doing was just helping people reconnect to each other, helping people reconnect to like home, right? Because Saudi's still under prohibition. If you're listening to this in 2024, Saudi is still under prohibition. Next year, not so much.
So at the time, it was illegal.
Yeah,
what he was
it's
doing.
still illegal.
It's still illegal. And so people were coming over and they were like, give me some of the sweet moonshine. And how old are you? You're a child? You're
6, 7.
6, 7. Were you like one of those kids that were like got to go to their parents' like parties and like they were just like having fun and like, you know, you ever see those movies where there's like the kid that's like there while the parents are having so much fun and like having friends
No, I
over?
hated it.
Why did you hate it?
Because I'm a bookworm. I like silence. For those of you into astrology, we just had a whole like
we'll get to your
lesson in
crystals.
crystals.
We'll get to the crystals. Don't worry.
So I'm gonna go here. I'm a Virgo.
Okay.
Right, that's my sun sign, but I'm Sagittarius rising. So I present as this very gregarious human being, but really deep inside, I'm just a shy, very quiet, love my silence.
Do you think that's because as a kid there was so much like loud adult?
No, apparently I came out of the womb like that.
Oh, you were just a quiet kid.
I always just loved peace and quiet. And so the fact that they were so rambunctious and they would take the party elsewhere, like Saudi was a very social place, especially we lived on a compound. So the whole thing was like just being around each other and partying together.
And when did you move back to the States?
So just before 9/11, just before, it was essentially like junior, senior year of high school.
Got you. So I'm not trying to date you. I'm just trying to understand that you went to high school half in Saudi Arabia and half in
So the
Miami?
other thing about, it's such a different world over there, right?
Yeah.
So like the traditional sort of trajectory of all the kids that lived as expats there was to go to our school, which was an international baccalaureate program, then sort of fast track yourself to prep school, ideally in London, and then end up at Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard. Like all of the kids I went to school with are brilliant. And then I like end up back in the States. I'm going to Florida State.
All the kids that I grew up with are morons. So that's same Kevin, I assume, right, Kevin? Yeah. So this sounds very prestigious. This is like Saltburn, right? That's very much the same thing, right? What was that movie?
I don't know Saltburn.
I don't know.
You never saw this? Okay. This is just like a very prestigious like prep school where the kids are all very fancy.
So I'm definitely the least successful of all my friends growing up.
Really?
Like they're just so wickedly
even now that you have
smart.
all of the billions from Kin, there's you're still the sort of like the dregs of the crew. You're I'm just Jen Batchelor, the founder of
I've got a
Kin.
couple more press articles to my name, but I would say like all of them are just off.
That's pretty cool.
Really cool things
Well,
all
you're
around
just
the world.
getting
Yeah,
started.
I'm
you're
still a
at the beginning
baby,
of your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds very cool. And these people, what are these people doing that they're more successful than you?
I mean, they're just so wickedly smart, and they're just going and wrecking shit. Like there's
In what categories?
Well, what even is success?
Yeah, what
right?
is success really, Jen?
No, but you know what? Setting out to go and crush a goal, and then doing that and beyond, and doing great works for the world, and all of those things. So, but it is such a great question. What is success? Yeah, it's probably how I ended up in this seat, to be honest with you.
After college, marketing, is that a path? Again, we do no research here. Business.
We do no research.
I was on the LinkedIn today.
Thank you.
Wow,
yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
You didn't put any of it here in the notes here.
Whoops.
What did you want to like be when you grew up?
I really didn't know, other than to say like I need to be successful. So like growing up in a predominantly Cuban family, right? That's like definitely the most prevalent influence in my life, especially as it relates to goals and like how to see yourself as successful. So everyone was like, you have to have the BMW and the suit and the corner office, and like that's success. If I didn't have a path to being a lawyer or a doctor, some equivalent of like badass business person had to occur, right? So for me,
so you're like, I want to be a boss.
Yeah, I was like, whatever, let's do it all. So I went to Florida State. They were like full ride. They were paying me to go there, and I was like, I'm going to crush it. So let's just crush it. How do I do this thing? I want to be pre-law. I want to give myself the option. My dean was like, all right, go multinational business operations and finance, and you're going to be able to double major, graduate in 3 years, and go do your thing. So of course I like dabbled so hard at that school. I was like creative writing, marketing. I mean, I was just like all over the map because I was so bored studying finance and studying business in general. But it's something that I absorbed through osmosis and still got to do creative writing classes. I had a class on Wiccan literature, which definitely has
which school?
Aided my pursuit.
You went to which school?
Which has influenced many things that I've worked on.
Yes,
primarily kin.
Another thing you and my wife have in common.
There you go.
Yeah, witches. Did you work at like a bank? Did you start like a regular entry level job somewhere?
Yeah. So the reason why I didn't end up going into law school is because I ended up like totally switching gears, getting recruited to go work at a bank that no longer exists.
Okay.
And I did that very briefly. I think I did it long enough to understand process and understand and appreciate like working in a team and all of the things that you kind of don't really learn in college. And then I struck out on my own.
And then how long into that journey were you like, I have this idea to invent sober curiosity? When did you were like, people shouldn't be drinking as much, but if we create a term that allows them to be curious, but not fully committed, this is the path.
It was a windy road to get there, to be honest with you. It was living it the way everyone else was living it. I'm so grateful for like the first 5 years of my professional life because I did what every good sort of like angling for the corner office employee does and like worked hard and played hard.
Just like Kevin.
Yeah.
And so a lot of drinking at that time?
A lot of drinking. Yeah.
Was there a light bulb moment where you were like, I grew up with this Saudi Arabian bootlegger father? No.
I actually didn't even put that together until like we were designing the logo for Kin.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I had no interest at all in being in the business whatsoever.
Got it. You were like, this is not for me.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. I didn't make the tie to like, I didn't come back to the States and say, oh, fine wines. Like, I can make one better.
Yeah. You're like, no one is making one of these.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I didn't get to the point of my alcohol consumption where I thought like, even in those days, a product is going to solve it. I literally had to go through the motions the hard way until I realized that it just wasn't serving any of the goals that I actually had. But even before I got there, I had to give a shit enough to know who I was and what I wanted.
So was there a moment where you were like, all right, this is enough?
Yeah. I mean, there was a time like after working in the bank that I started my own business. And of course, like once you're on your own clock, right? Like every opportunity, I mean, any freelancer, any business owner can relate to this is like every down minute, like every hour or day dedicated to like being hungover, nursing, some horrible raging, headache is an hour that you're not being productive or
you can't dollars. Like you're only making your life harder for yourself. And in fact, you're making you're fooling yourself and making it harder to do the thing that you need to do. Was there a business before Kin?
Yeah.
Really? What was that business? There were two businesses before Kin. See, this is what I'm saying. I don't know any of this stuff. What are the businesses before Kin?
So the first one actually was just after the bank because the kind of a funny fact, side story of the banking part of my trajectory is like I worked at a private bank where I was like the youngest person by like 20 years. And they sort of put me out there to work in the community and sit on and serve on all these boards to represent the bank. And I realized that like these folks do not have a handle on how to market themselves. Like they're spending so much money and effort to raise money, right? Like what is this? So why can't we leverage social media? And they had no idea what social media was at that time. It was literally the year that Zuck decided to take Facebook from .net. Do you remember that Facebook was like .edu?
I remember it was the Facebook, and I still sometimes call it the Facebook.
Yeah, and it was .edu.
Yeah, because it was for colleges.
It was colleges.
Yeah, these kids, they don't know, Kevin.
They don't.
You don't understand.
Fuck, I'm like really dating myself now.
No, I mean, listen.
Well, that's okay.
It's just adults and the kids. Kevin representing all of the kids.
I'm not that young.
No, I know. So Facebook.edu
went to .com, and all of a sudden you as a business or as a nonprofit could start to advertise yourself. It wasn't a paid platform yet, but you could start a group. You could start a organization. And so I was teaching them to get online, and I just thought it was like the most fun thing. And I just did it for fun, like on the side.
So it was like a business consultancy to help.
It wasn't even a consultancy yet. I like literally just started working and helping. And then I ended up getting pitched to do this thing to like work in new media for a project. It was a very specific, it was like a concert series with Univision and Ford. And I started working with all these crazy apps and technologies, and one of them being Foursquare and Twitter, who had just like launched not even 6 months prior. So I was essentially just trying to tie the online with the offline. And again, that whole thread of like building community and trying to activate people where they are, trying to make things more efficient, trying to bring innovation to a place where actual human beings are coming together. That's sort of always been the thread that still carries through to Kin.
So the second brand, because now I know your LinkedIn profile.
We've got LinkedIn open.
I got.
Watch out, people.
Watch out. Research has been completed. Second company, Suka.
So second company, Suka is an offshoot of the second company. So the second company was a company that I started with a friend.
Hebrew dating app, is that what it's called? Yeah. Sorry, that's a bad joke. I take back for all the Jewish people that are listening. There's nobody listening. Suka,
the one person. No, so it was actually a wellness hospitality.
It's my mom. She's the one Jewish person listening. Okay, so
my mom.
She's like, oh, that was a great Sukkot joke.
Sukkot joke.
Whatever the holiday is.
Okay, oh no, it was all just shiksas.
Yes. Okay, so what is it? Because on LinkedIn it says, for those in constant pursuit of conscious creativism.
Creativism.
Yeah, that's a very Jen. And then there's 3 words that I'm not going to read because I will ruin them all. Do you know what they are? Yogasta, Kuru, Karmani.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Oh my gosh. Well, you'd asked me at one point, what it took for me to find myself or know myself. And that is exactly what that means. It says, know yourself, then perform action. It's actually a quote from the Bhagavad Gita, which is a book that essentially just like fell off the shelf for me back in my early 20s, that helped me get curious about like, what is this self-awareness thing? Like, how can I get more of it?
So you've been dabbling in religious and consciousness and mythology and, trying to understand why people behave the way they do, essentially.
Big time.
And so that has always kind of driven you to want to learn more, to understand it. And then Kin, it's amazing, is it truly only 7 years old? Is that true?
Yeah, we just turned 7.
That feels like at least 2 decades.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Same.
So Kin obviously is here and is now a very successful brand. What was the original sort of like idea, brief to Row & Co, like for the branding? Like what did you in your mind were you creating at that time?
An invitation, first and foremost. I didn't feel invited to participate in sobriety and or to participate in like an alcohol-free lifestyle. I was not very impressed with any of the brands that existed at the time. I think the only one, frankly, that I knew about was O'Doul's.
Really?
Maybe I wasn't. Well, I had to go on LinkedIn to find out more, but was not well researched on non-alc.
I remember having O'Doul's for the first time as a kid at like a friend's house. When I was like probably 10 years old. And I was like, if this is what beer tastes like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to drink beer.
Precisely. When I heard someone say something, probably one of my many friends that are rife with conspiracies, but they were like Kevin
big
will appreciate this.
Yeah.
That O'Doul's was actually invented by Big Alc, probably ABI, and they intentionally made it taste horrible.
Well, they own
Makes
it.
sense.
They do. That's a fact. I don't know, did they create it or did they buy it? But it's a great theory because it does taste like shit. And you're like, I can't drink this.
No, and they're product geniuses, so why not make it taste great? There's no effort whatsoever.
Well, that's what Athletics has done is like they made a non-alcoholic beer that tastes good. And so it's like, that's now a $600 million.
Can't be that hard,
Yeah, I mean, they probably could have figured it out 10 years ago, at least.
The bar was
20
so
years ago.
low. The bar was so low that, like, for me, I was like, I'm not a beverage person, not a hedge fund manager. Yes. All I want to do is create something that I myself would drink and stand in line for. And guess what? It better be from the fucking future. Like, I don't want it to be.
Yeah, we're going to the future now.
Yeah.
And you're coming with me.
Let's go buckle up because, like, the things that were out there and the things that I knew were coming.
Yes.
Alcohol-free beer, alcohol-free wine, alcohol-free everything. All the analogs weren't going to hit the mark for me. I didn't want the lesser than version. And when I learned about Seedlip in my process of developing Kin, I was like, this is such a beautiful idea and such a beautiful offering. It's still not for me because I'm not a gin drinker.
Yes. It's still replacing something.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beauties of Kin. It is not sort of a alternative.
Right.
and it's not a non-alc, which implies that it's, sort of something lesser than.
Exactly.
It's its own thing.
We went straight for the jugular with that category name as well, the Euphorics monikers.
Which is genius again.
Are you the first one in the Euphorics category?
We are. We coined both social tonic, which now a lot of brands are co-opting, and then we also, that's actually a fun fact, our LLC. So in 2016, we registered a company called Kin Social Tonics. We were the first one to use that phrase, period, in the world. And then we realized very quickly as we presented these products to the industry that everyone would say, oh, like Fever Tree. Mm-hmm. Oh, if I use the word tonic, the bar industry is just going to automatically think it's tonic water. Mm-hmm. We have to keep pushing. And so we dug and dug and dug and dug. And at the time, Natalie was on board. I don't know if you remember.
Of course.
Working with Natalie Ren. I dropped her. She's amazing. A copywriter, brand strategist.
Big listener of the pod. Yeah.
Yes, she's awesome. And we were blessed enough to meet. And actually, we met through Rebecca at Roco.
And so you have no, at this time, background creating beverages.
Not beverages. Brands, yes. Beverages, no.
Beverages definitely was something new. So how did you go about making a beverage?
I was just doing it at home. I mean, I love to cook in general, and I have sort of my whole life dabbled in that. And frankly, my first bartending gig was at home. I was told that when I was a very young kid, my grandmother just reminded me of a story recently that like we could barely afford Tang. Right? Tang was like the cheaper Kool-Aid, but she kept it in one of those plastic jugs for me, and I would invite the entire neighborhood over, and I would make everyone like little Tang drinks.
Aww.
So I've been
that's cute.
I've been a mixologist since I was like 7.
Damn.
If you have to know.
Yeah, that we need to see proof of that. Otherwise, I'm not gonna believe that story.
Where
You're like, where's the Tang? She's like putting a little rosemary at the top, and she's like, "Do you want some Tang drinks? That'll be $25."
Yeah.
So you're just whipping up these botanicals in your kitchen?
I was. Yeah, I have many burn marks to prove that one as well, because a lot of these had to be boiled down, extracted.
What were some of the early herbs you were working with?
Just about everything. I mean, I would use sage. We haven't had the luxury of using this in any of our products, but I really love holy basil, tulsi. I would say the most highly psychotropic herbs that I could possibly find. Some that are found in teas, and some that get pulverized into pills usually.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And so at what point were you like, I have something here?
So it took a village at that point. Once I had sort of the original stack and the sense that I was trying to solve a very specific problem at a very specific time, right? Like for me, the most disruptible social ritual on earth is happy hour. Mm-hmm. Happy hour, like after talking to as many people as I did back in 2016, 2017, that is the moment where you're drinking and you hate yourself for drinking. Usually it's like, okay, I'm going out with coworkers, or I have this mixer, or I have this thing, and I'm like, I really should go to bed, or I really should go to the gym, but I'm going to go and drink this thing. And like, especially in my life, it was always the free wine that got me. It was like, oh, I'm going to this mixer and there's free wine. Great. I'm going to hate my life tomorrow. It's cheap. It doesn't taste that great. I'm not enjoying it that much. There's an abundance of it. I'm just going to drink it because it's free, and then pay for it tomorrow.
Headache is coming even sometimes before you go to sleep.
No kidding.
Were you thinking in your head, like, I'm going to make a commercial product that's going to be sold in Targets one day?
No, not at all. I mean, there's a whole like chapter before that where I actually go and study Ayurvedic medicine.
Got it.
This is how you'll know I'm such a freaking nerd. It was such a spiritual quest for me that even sitting there learning about Ayurvedic medicine at Kripalu in the Berkshires, I was like, who am I? Why am I here on a weekday, like learning this wisdom that is so profound and is absolutely changing my life as I sit here, as I live and breathe? And I would just cry in class. Like,
really, you were that like
single tear.
You were that moved?
I was so moved. I really was so moved, y'all. The elemental wisdom, the way that they think about things, it's so simple that you realize in that moment, like how much we overcomplicate things in our lives, in our very modern, sophisticated lives. There's so many layers of bullshit on top of the truth that no wonder we're all like anxious and confused about life. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that I was able to like not only strip away years of training by just absorbing this wisdom, but that I could like come back to self and apply it to myself and like reflect and then be totally naked emotionally and ask myself what I wanted and ask myself what made me tick and then have grace for myself within that was I want to do this for everyone. How can I start tomorrow?
I think branding recommendation here. Dr. Batchelor. We just go, that's the pod, Bachelor Lab. We go the Huberman, sort of approach, and we start teaching these fools.
Let's go.
And then we monetize, baby. We're just, we open up the school of people that want to know more.
Yeah.
And the sort of the dollars will just, they'll print themselves.
What's beautiful too, the Vedic principle. Like I remember having like all this dogma and all this weird like preconceived notion about like having a spiritual life and doing spiritual work like had to be so stripped of anything impure that you just had to be this like yogi with your feet bare and just like really just this purist on the street. And Ayurvedic wisdom is so wise and so studied, meaning they've literally watched human behavior for 10,000 years and have come to this conclusion. It's okay to make money.
Yeah.
Dharma, the fact that you can actually live your truth and prosper means that other people are going to be able to do the same thing, right? Like you're not going to be able to rise to the top of a mountain, your respective mountain, by being impoverished and sick and without resource. So yeah, and that to me was like so wise and like real.
Yeah.
This first wave of like, wow,
it's okay to want money. Yeah, my mom, speaking of Joni, shout out to Joni again, the one listener, she was a Hare Krishna for a while. And like part of the Hare Krishna thing is too, it's like people like lived in San Francisco and like had jobs and also made money and just like wanted to like find community and sort of be, it really is a social thing as much as it is a spiritual thing. Is people that just want to be surrounded by other people. And as someone who watched a lot of Netflix docs about, sort of cults and gurus and a lot of things, like they all have one thing in common, and religion as well. It's like people they're searching for belonging.
Yeah.
That's it. And they just want other people that they can, connect with in different ways and to sort of strip down and sort of, find their tribes.
Yes.
And I think that's like the sort of thing that we're all searching for. And I think that's what makes people, feel lonely or, that's why this new world of technology and all these people that are connected but feel way worse because of it. And so now it's like so much worse than it's ever been.
No.
And then alcohol is like, it does bring people together. There's no argument there.
100%.
Like, tonight the New York Knicks are playing a very important basketball game, but like that to me is also a beautiful thing too, where it's like you go to an arena and you see 20,000 people that are like bleeding hearts, like this is our thing, and like alcohol is a part of that, and the bars and things, it's like it's such a interwoven part of culture.
You want to hear something cool?
Yes.
They also serve kin.
That's right.
No way.
Yeah.
Courtside at the Knicks, you can get a nice cold kin.
So let's, which is a crazy thing. It's such a crazy.
But it proves what you're saying out, because the inspiration for the brand being so fire, and I will say it, we are the sexiest fucking brand in NA.
Absolutely.
Period. Mm-hmm. The reason why it had to be is because we were up against other alcohol brands, and alcohol does it really well, right? Like they make you feel like you are the sexiest person alive, no matter what you're into.
Mm-hmm. There's no denying that you look cool as hell when you have a Budweiser.
Yeah, they got their claws in deep too.
Yes, for years, right? Hundreds of years. Yeah. So like we had to bring it, and I think that is one of the things. Like I wanted it not only from its exterior to sort of represent this occasion, and that was something that I wanted to preserve, that premium aspect of drinking alcohol.
So the geniuses over at Row & Co. are the ones that got the brief to create a Euphorics brand,
the original logo and bottle.
And so what was that kind of brief? This is a design podcast, so people do
let's go back to
the
that
show. They're a lot of times designers. They're not all designers, but people that are they're interested in sort of behind the scenes. And so as a person obviously that has built a couple companies, obviously creatively sort of intuitive, like how did you pick Row & Co, and then sort of like what did you want in your head for them to make?
Here's what I knew about the alcohol industry at that time, that it definitely was an industry that preyed upon women and leveraged women. So much of it was like, you'll be sexier if. I remember like being disgusted. Somebody had told me along the lines of my my professional goals and aspirations, that find your purpose where you're pissed. If something really pisses you off and really upsets you about the world, go there and fix it. Go there and address it. Go and hit it head on.
Whew, what am I going to do at the Soho House? Burn it down. Okay, no, go. Sorry. I was just.
Oh, you're mad at them too?
I hate that place. Sorry. Don't bleep this out because in case I have to go back there. I don't know why that was the first thing I thought about that. Like, I hate.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Visceral reaction.
Member club. Okay, sorry. Go back.
Alex Center for creatives.
Yeah. The new.
The Alex Center.
The Alex Center. Yeah. Perfect. Done. Genius. Boom.
I had to go there and understand, like, okay, how do we dismantle this? Because it's obviously totally screwed up. I mean, they're marketing to women, and yet alcohol is one of the worst things that you can do for your endocrine system. They market to us that we're going to be sexier and more confident. And frankly, like, even the feminist movement sort of fell prey to this, where like women were telling other women, if you can't drink your male counterpart under the table, then are you really a badass feminist? Enter Mila Kunis. I've forgiven you since this, Mila. She did an entire campaign with Jim Beam. Did you guys see this?
I remember this a little bit.
Jim's the one with the cane, right? Yeah. They did a whole thing called Jane Beam, where it was literally like Mila in a suit at a bar. Like, they slide her a whiskey and she's like... This is Jane Beam.
Yeah. That's bad.
Yeah, they did the same thing with cigarettes at the turn of the century.
That's right. And look at where they're at now. Yeah. Women got wise, and then they turned everybody on to the wisdom. So I figured it was my turn to like wake people the fuck up, because I was so tired of this like cockamamie marketing. And so when I chatted with Rebecca, we met through our friend Vishal. First of all, I love that Bex had like all this incredible background. Like, she was the CMO at like Billabong, and then she also was an exec at Budweiser. Like, so she had this really cool, like, edgy energy, but she understood beverage marketing really well. She understood beverage branding really well. And I just told her the concept, and then enter Rose, a freaking legend in branding. And they're like, we literally have no time for this, and you have no budget. So we're going to bring in.
Sounds familiar.
We love it, but
we're in. But we got to do this in 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how much this budget's going to get
right. So we'll bring in a freelancer, Colin Smite, who like
legend of the game, Cul-de-sac.
Just G.
Yeah.
Total G. So I got so lucky, and so original intent when we talked about the logo, looked at the logo. We had to do the antithesis of everything that was going on in branding at the time. And if you remember, it was like Everlane, Away, all these brands that were cool and sexy, most of them DTC, were very clean, very like sans serif, minimalist
Warby
energy.
Parker,
Warby.
What they now call blanding.
Blanding. Yeah. It has a term for it. That's right. Yes. And now it has a term.
I hate the term, but yes, the point is that in the early 2000s, everything was stripped back, simple. Sensor.
There's totally nothing wrong with it. It's just, for me, I was it worked really well at the time. And I was a consumer of all these products.
Yeah.
However, I wanted
20 years ago, which is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these brands.
When they launched.
Like 10,
right? 15. Like, when did Warby Parker launch?
It has been a minute.
Like, that's how trends go.
But by the time I was like assessing what I wanted to put out there, like, they had been out there for a minute. And so I was like, okay, well, the pendulum always swings back. Also, I want to be maximalist about this. I don't want to be, I want to be totally unapologetic about the way I show up on the scene with this product, that at first blush, probably hearing about it, it's an alcohol-free drink. Like, a lot of people went, ick. Like, why would I want to drink that? I'll just drink water. So I had to be in your face about it. The original bottle actually was like stunningly, I mean, it's still like the versions that are out there today are still very much, it hasn't changed much, right? It's still the same, but the cans really had to pop. So we had this whole like energy around it that it just had to be big, it had to be bold. And so I saw a lot of concepts, and this one that we landed on was literally a hand-drawn like take on calligraphy, like Arabic calligraphy that Colin put together. And the fun fact too, I don't know if anyone's watching this, but right here between the K and the N is where the I meets the K. Mm-hmm. That's actually the symbol for a neurotransmitter. So always from the start, we wanted to be the product. We wanted to have a formulation that actually helped change the perception of pleasure in the mind. because we knew plants had that power. We just didn't know if people were ready for it, but we just like hid it in the logo. The logo, of course, being like this very reverent, beautiful homage to what we wanted it to be. The spirit of kin is bringing people together. It is family. It's kindred, connection.
Is that where the name comes from?
Yeah, kin.
Kin.
My kin. It's that moment, like
Kith
you're at
kin,
the bar.
right?
Exactly. Kith is friends and kin is family. But for me, it was like,
should have gone with Kith. That would have been good.
Oh yeah, there's not a strong brand that exists with that name.
Oh, there is a brand. You're right.
My thing with that is I didn't want, like, after a really fun night out, these were like my people, you know what I mean? But the fact that we were drunk meant I didn't really remember their names or what we talked about. I know we had a really good time, but it's like that moment or that friend that's like just a hair above family, right? But not blood related necessarily.
So when I met you, I remember, sort of you taught me Kin 101, which was like what a nootropic is and all these things. And I was like, there's something happening here. And I was like, it's very confusing to me because I don't understand science or nootropics still to this day. But I remember also the idea of sober curiosity. It was something that you talked about, and I never heard that term before. And I was very intrigued by that because at this point in my life, this is probably like 5-6 years ago, I was sort of into my 30s, and I was like, ooh, drinking. I was never, I drank a lot as a kid, but I started to. I just never really drank in my house. I'm not one of those guys that come home after a day at work and pours himself a whiskey. I just I don't drink alone, like, or with like just my wife. Like, I drink socially. Yeah. That's the only time I do it. So I realized more and more it wasn't really a part of my life, especially when I started my company. Of course, like you just said, like, you're just fucking yourself, honestly, by, getting a hangover for multiple days and then not being able to work for your own company. Totally. You can't call in sick to your boss because you are your boss. So that idea really opened up my eyes to the idea that I don't have to go fully commit. Yeah. But I can kind of be curious.
Totally.
Were these ideas new, novel? Like, when did you, like, because I imagine at the time, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when you were developing this, like, this was not a thing. Like, people were very much, non-alcoholic beverages were seen as O'Doul's. Like, they were just seen as something that was like a lesser version. And did you have conversations with people that you started to believe that you were sort of onto something that was like, that kids were going to sort of maybe stop drinking one day? Like, what gave you that? Or was it just like, this is for me, this is for my friends, and hopefully others will?
I would like to say I was that insightful. It really was just about my journey and sort of observing too, like, what was going on around me. There was like a lot of cognitive dissonance around drinking, not drinking. There's a lot of polarization. You're either here or you're not. You're either sitting on this side of the fence or you're sitting on that side of the fence. And what I understood about my own drinking habits and my own desire to feel a certain kind of way, it was a spectrum, right? Like this idea of like, I want to feel zen and at ease. Yeah, I do want that, but I don't want it at the bar. I want to feel like alive and I want to feel present, and I don't want to feel sedated either. So like, why are we doing this weird thing where we're compromising how we want to feel? Do we even know how we want to feel? Let's start there.
Oof.
Like
big questions.
So
do we know how we want to feel? I don't know.
The bartenders weren't helping because at that point it was literally like, hey, Kevin, what are you in the mood for? And you're like, I don't know, tequila flavor or wine flavor. It's not like drunk is drunk is drunk. It's not like you're going to feel any other kind of way unless you had like an energy drink with it. And I wasn't an energy drinker either.
You weren't an energy drink early. Another thing you said to me that I think about a lot too is you said the term future nostalgia.
Oh, yeah.
As a word to describe the brand.
Yeah.
And this was years before Dua Lipa put out her album, Future Nostalgia. So that at the same time also was like, seemed like a really unique idea. Was that through the sort of initial brand like offering that you guys, or project that you kind of came up with that vision of like a brand that felt like it was nostalgic, but also years ahead?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because like, I do feel like we were on a crazy tear there for like 3 or 4 years. It was just really about tapping just such a deeply intuitive sense. But there was also this like creative sort of collective consciousness that was forming around us that was showing us all of these things. Like, I don't know if you remember Daniel Arsham.
Yes, of course.
had Future Relics.
He smashes things.
He's a fucking G, man. Like I love his
seen his
stuff.
house?
No.
Oh my God. The best part about Daniel Arsham, whose work you can debate whether it's good or not. I personally don't love it. That's just me. His house is like the coolest thing on the planet Earth, and that's mostly.
I want to see it.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
I wouldn't doubt it.
He's got the sickest house.
Here's my thing: like I
Future Relics, though.
Not that I can afford it, but I wouldn't necessarily buy Daniel's art, just because I do like to live amongst like truly, truly beautiful things, and that's a whole nother topic. Daniel likes to make people think, and I think that is ultimately what art is.
And it's the idea that he's creating things from the future that have been brought to the present.
Yeah, he's making it so that you don't have to fantasize about it. He's actually bringing it into reality. And that's, pre-AI days. So I think for me, it was really, or even AR, it was the future nostalgia moment when we were ideating on this back in 2017, actually. It was very much about like preserving the thing that's really timeless about the drinking experience, the thing that's sexy, the thing that's romantic, the thing that is artful, but pushing it to its edge, creating and bringing and honoring the innovation that we are pushing for and imbuing that in the brand. But not, right? Like I didn't want to be a gimmicky brand either, like an old school whiskey using Gothic fonts and this and that, but we just happened to be NA. No, I had to kind of live in both worlds. And so that's what future nostalgia was to us.
And I mean, it's timeless. It really is. Like, I think what's so cool about the design, and, I always give, Rowan Co. so much credit for it because I obviously have worked on the brand with you, and I never take credit for the original sort of idea of this sort of concept of future nostalgia and also this logo and sort of the way it really kind of was so ahead of its time, but also still to this day feels fresh and new. And I think that's the thing that it's 7 years old and design trends kind of come and go. And you see so many brands that are sort of trying to be cool and trying to sort of do things that sort of feel kin adjacent. Yeah. But it's not the same. And I think you guys have just done such a great job of, kind of bringing it to the masses. And now that it's, a brand that you can get at the Knicks game or you can get at your local bar, I think it's hard to scale. Oh, it's really hard to scale. One thing I'll say about the brand too, because she doesn't get enough credit, is Nikki Huffman, who's also at Rowan Co. at the time. I think she was a senior art director. Nikki knows how to build worlds. I think one of the insights, and I have not asked, I should at this point, where this came from, but the idea that we would also tap beauty, I mean, that came from the formulation itself, and we can go into that as well, but that we could tap the worlds of beauty and fashion branding to really bring this to life and build a whole world around it really came from them as well. And that is their sweet spot. I mean, they have Tata Harper, they have countless fashion brands, including Gucci. So, they brought the fire and the polish on that too. And that's also a really important point, and definitely it makes a lot of sense, right? They're known for their fashion and beauty work. So to bring some of that energy to alcohol where it doesn't really live. Right. And, again, it's another thing in branding and design. It's like, if you really want to stand out, look at other categories and bring some cues and bring some thinking from that, sort of other world and bring it to alcohol. And so it all really works. And at the time it was, what I loved about the brand when I first saw it was like just the whole internet, website, social media presence. Like it was very CGI focused. Yes. It felt like AI long before AI, having that sort of like future feel to it. Yeah. Ada Sokol. And Ada Sokol, she absolutely crushed she did. All those renders. And so when I talk about kin, another thing I often talk about is how many creative people have touched the brand and how many creative people, even when we were, sort of anytime we've ever worked with you, you're like, you need to talk to this poet and this illustrator and this painter and Colin Smythe and Natalie and like you just like surround yourself with so many creative people that all think differently and do different things to all kind of come together to build kin. Yeah. Thanks for calling that out. There's so many disciplines that have gone into building kin and that continue to go into building kin. And and it shows. It is the thing that like now Big Alka is trying to copy kin. There are a number of just like rip-off brands out there that some are great and some are not so great. And it's funny because you sit back and you're like, the je ne sais quoi comes from us like not having a freaking formula
as to what makes a great brand, but going by its true nature, the art form of it. It was a living, breathing organism just in that. It was like, this person does bring this sense of purity, this sense of heart. This person brings a certain level of chaos, but like it all came together because everyone was living in that same spirit of like, we need to pop off in a meaningful way. And they listened so intently to what I wanted. They understood it.
It takes it's a difficult thing. I think it would be a lot easier for other brands to copy it if it came from one source to sort of how most creative, like how much like a brand needs to be born. So they hire a creative agency and they make the brand and then they say goodbye and then they go and build that brand.
Yeah.
I think that's not your approach. You're like, I'm a conductor and this is my symphony and I'm going to bring in all different types of players at different times.
Yeah. And you better be cool with working together. And luckily everybody's been cool as shit.
And I think that's so brilliant. And that's, to me, that's like the thing that really sets Kin apart from any other brand I've ever worked with. It's that approach where it's like, you're going to be paired with all these other creative people. And to your point, you have to be able to collaborate and down for the cause and check your ego at the door because we're going to make we're making stuff here and we're pushing the brand forward.
And it not only worked because it worked, the finished product was so outstanding. And like, I don't think it gets enough credit, frankly, but hopefully.
Put some respect on Kin.
Yeah, let's go. Let's elevate us a little more. At zero. It's so funny because my investors are like, maybe you need to work on flavor so you can get some awards.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you need awards. That's definitely what you need.
I've actually just had someone recently that said I need to work on the packaging. We'll go there another
fuck
time.
that. Oh, not everyone knows what they're talking about.
Not everyone. Not everyone.
Again, for us.
They're like, have you seen Liquid Death? I'm
you don't really need to listen to everyone's.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Yeah. You guys need some more death here.
Yeah, a little more. Let's sprinkle a little more death
a little bit
in
more
there.
punk, energy.
But the second piece to it working, I think, is that it hopefully brought more business to everyone that has ever touched the brand because everyone talks about having built it together. And I really think that has done numbers look at all the brands that have been born.
Totally. And I mean, Colin and Natalie and myself, like all these people and Lars even like
fucking
doing killing it. And like for us, it
makes
was like,
me so happy.
We were like, okay, packaging, we're bringing this brand to shelves.
Yeah.
And I think our brief, to talk about it for a second, is just like, how do we take this whole world that you've built and put it onto one can? And that was, I remember being like, ooh, we have our work cut out for ourselves. And I think that was the challenge. And one box in 3 weeks.
Well, and the other thing too was like, in effect, because our deadline was summer solstice. That's the other way that I'm a little bit batty, is that like we had to launch spirits on summer solstice when the witches come out at night. So it was one of those things. And it was an LTO. I was like, it's going to live for summer. And basically at summer solstice, it's kind of over already. So at least in the beverage retail world, it's like, first of all, it's going to take you a year to get this on shelf. And I didn't care. I was like, let's go full tilt into this energy. And you guys like absolutely knocked it out of the park. And guess what?
Look at us now.
Look at us now. And it's also lived on an LTO that went on to live 5 years.
I would imagine.
The longest living LTO.
I'm not taking a liberty to say. I imagine the can business is the main business.
It's the billboard for the business. And so
and that's what packaging is.
That's
it's the billboard at the stores. Summer solstice, now that I remember it, you had a party. And I remember Kevin and I attended this party.
Yeah, you did.
And, I think at the time, Kin, I didn't realize how much caffeine was in Kin.
Oh, yeah.
And I had
just this one.
Just Kin Spirits. I think I had like 5 or 6 of them that night. I think Kevin had like 11.
I was seeing how many Kins I could drink. I didn't know. And then I looked, after the night was over, I looked at the caffeine. I was like, fuck.
I'm going to be up for weeks. And so that's a party I'll never forget. A great party. But I think both of us remember being like, ooh, we feel different. And it's not with alcohol, clearly. I think it's, we're flying. We flew.
We are literally flying.
We didn't get Ubers home. We just flew.
See, this is the thing that people need to understand.
That was a great party.
It was such a good party. And that's the other thing. I was like, we would pack a house when we were doing all those events in the city and in Brooklyn. It was like 500 people would be there raging and there wouldn't be a single drop of alcohol. And by the way, for those of you who are not familiar with Kin, especially Kin Spritz, like it's not just the caffeine, right? Every can has about 50 milligrams of caffeine. It's about 1 shot of espresso, or less. Actually, it's probably half a shot. But when you're pounding and incorporating,
when you drink 12, like Kevin,
I mean the stack. Well, that for sure, that adds up.
Yeah, it wasn't a great choice. That's probably not how you're supposed to consume it.
It was a fun party.
Actually, if you read the label, nobody reads, so that's on me. But we do caution. Max 4 in a sitting.
That's probably good. Again, just like indulgence in anything can be.
Well, that's exactly right. Even water, right? But yeah, so for us, it was like that happy hour occasion. Circling back to the original question of how did we come about this crazy formulation? It was, how do we sharpen the mind in a way that like brings you back to self and makes you like ready to party? Because a lot of times, like I'll look at my calendar and be, it'll be 4:30, and I'm like, shit, I have drinks and dinner with friends at 6:30. Like, how am I going to go from this like crazy person having done 8 or 9 calls in a row to a grounded, ready for anything, present person, like the best version of myself. And so Spritz lifts you up in that sense that, it has a lot of delicious like botanicals that are known for vitality, including ginger, that 50 milligrams of caffeine, and then GABA, L-theanine, which rounds it out. GABA obviously is like the first neurotransmitter that is tapped actually when you drink alcohol. So GABA is incredibly relaxing, and then you have the hibiscus, which is hydrating. So it's a well-rounded. She's a well-rounded girl. She really wants you to be up, but like on your feet.
Rising.
Yeah,
that was another thing I remember from our.
Oh yeah,
the rise.
I remember we were making like the kin cocktails out of the bottle in the studio, like pre-kin spritz, and we had those little like hibiscus. You sent the nice hibiscus flowers.
Yeah,
and, we're doing it up. We did it as a team, and it was like, oh yeah, we are all kind of rising right now.
We're rising.
It's
really
nice.
That was the vibe and the feeling. And yeah, I mean, we say it on our packaging. You actually have some of our old glassware up there. It says Rise Wise.
Oh, we love that glass.
Yeah. Got to get you some more.
Yeah, there's a really funny moment I think in the studio when we started working on the brand, and you sent us over this like amazing kin care package because you're so sweet and kind. Like we were like so excited about the brand, and we were like, I think we had talked to you and you said rising.
Yeah.
And so we all make these kin drinks, and we like waited to the end of the day to drink them. And like we all make them, and so we're all just kind of sitting there. We're just like waiting for it to kick in. Like we were.
Do you feel anything?
Yeah. Do you feel anything? And everyone's like, no, nope, not yet. And I think that was like the level of like belief and excitement around this product. Genuinely being like, this is a new sensation.
Yes. And
it's a new feeling, and it is, in the world that you built and rising and sort of all this kind of stack of ingredients. It's just. I can't. There's a feeling that you create when you're creating a brand that is, I have to have it.
Yeah.
And I think that is, or I can't wait to try that.
Try it. Yeah.
And I think that is the hardest thing on planet Earth to create. If we had a formula for it, man, we would be so successful. Yeah. Even more successful than we already are.
Truly.
Even more trophies. But like, I think that is the thing that we're all searching when it comes to brand. And you guys have had it since day one. It really is that type of brand. And I think the more and more people find out about it, they're just like, I need to try that. I need to get that in my hands. I want to be seen with it. I want to hold it. I want to drink it.
It's crazy.
And that's so hard, and especially for the category that you're in.
Yeah.
It's a miracle.
It was a very unsexy category when we came upon it, and there wasn't a ton of, like I said, the low hanging fruit was really like make a really cool looking non-alc beer, make something that people understand what it is. Creating a category called Euphorics was like we're really going for it here. I mean, it was a huge risk, and we just kind of knew people were ready. The right people were ready. We weren't sure that it was a business that was ever going to scale. But shout to Corey Seymour, the culture beat editor of Vogue, who like wrote a firsthand account. I mean, he's literally the protege of Hunter S. Thompson leaving Las Vegas. Like, I mean, he's
sick.
Such a baller, and had been sober for quite some time when we first met. We talked about the pleasure spectrum. I love telling the story because it's so funny the way he looked at me at the bar at Cafe Clover, RIP, no longer exists, in the West Village. And he said, like, honey, I know my way around Euphoria. Like, I toured with Metallica, bro. Oh. I've been on tour with these guys right next to them experiencing Euphoria. I'm like, really? Well, fun fact.
Yeah.
Did you know that the word euphoria has been misused for 75 years and then some? So we had this really in-depth conversation about pleasure as he was sipping on some Kintails at the bar. And he luckily, right, like I couldn't have manufactured this. He went off to do a freaking guitar lesson after. And same vibe, like in a room in a studio doing this, like post 3 or 4 kin drinks. And like he writes about it in Vogue in his article saying like, music literally sounded better in my ears. Oof. And I was on this trip. I was feeling so good. And guess what? Like I was still within my faculties. I still had complete agency over who I was and how I wanted to behave and what I was thinking. And then woke up with no hangover. Like, what is this magic?
Yeah, that's the difference between euphoria and ecstasy, right?
Right. Ecstasy.
Control.
Yeah. Oof. Ecstasis literally, like ecstasy, the root word being ecstasis, literally means to be outside of stasis or outside of one's mental state and mental capacities. So that is what you experience when you're trying an entheogen or doing something that where hallucination is sort of involved, right? But yeah, that's not the case with euphoria. Euphoria is within stasis or within the state of your mind that is the state of better being, is the state of well-being. So it's so crazy how that word was completely hijacked.
And I was going to say, for those keeping track at home, terms that Jen was ahead of the curve on, sober curiosity, social tonics, future nostalgia, the concept of maximalism versus minimalism, and then euphoria. So obviously
which
the
became
HBO show comes out after. So
not to mention, I think in my life, that was the first time I'd ever heard the word nootropics, adaptogens, L-theanine, which is, those things are like everywhere now.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
it's really
very early adopter.
It's really wild.
So Euphoria comes out on HBO, hit show, Zendaya. Do you think this is, inspired, or helpful for the brand? Do you think, in a way, bringing euphoria to the masses? No, it doesn't.
It's really funny because you look at a lot of the branding and even some of the fashion things, and the branding of the show and the marketing of the show, and I feel like it did lean in so heavily into what we were doing. There's some sort of like hyper realness to it, and so in a way, they were kind of combating what the good work we were doing to like help people really understand what the term meant. I never, for the record,
Sam Levinson.
This stays here. I've never watched the show.
No one listens.
I've actually never seen it. I just
it's a great show, but it is going in the other way of your movements.
Yes, I would get like show highlights.
It's very out
of
your own mind.
Yeah, the opposite. Yeah. It is. It should have been renamed Ecstasy.
It should have been.
There you go.
But I would get show notes from Casey.
Yeah. 2 things before we get out of here.
Yes.
One, Gia is a brand that I want to talk to you about, because when Gia came out, I was like, I will never put that into my body.
So
I'm
sweet.
Team Kin for life. And coming from Coca-Cola, Coke versus Pepsi, I was like, let's put a dartboard and let's throw arrows at them.
Yeah.
And I was like, but also competition and, sort of that happens when you create a hit product like you did.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, you're promoting and collaborating and partnering with them. Do we drop the beef? What's going on here, Jen?
Yeah, man. Listen, there was never any real beef between Melanie and I, and I love this because so many people. No, and it's so sweet because I think that's exactly the Coke and Pepsi reference is like, we were definitely behemoths in the space from a design standpoint. Like we were pursuing sort of the same things, and of course, like Kin was first to market, and she has been so incredibly humble about her comings up, even though she was working on Gia before Kin launched.
Wow.
I think she was at Glossier. But in beverage or in CBG,
Melanie, good story.
You should have her on the pod. She'll tell a little story.
I would never have her on the pod. No, it's a great brand too.
Melanie, for the record, there's a bottle of Gia in the closet over here.
How dare you, Jen, call us out? I've never drank it. It's just for design
I'm going to put Alex on blast. No, first of all,
we have
thank
a new
you
project with them. Just kidding.
I'm Cuban, so loyalty means a lot to me. But what I'll say is that she couldn't be a cooler chick. And the fact that in CBG and beverage in general, like there's this idea of like, have you earned the right to win in a specific space, whether that's like a channel or a specific shelf or a retailer. And like Gia and Ken are doing such vastly different things but we're like arm in arm in this quest, and we behave that way, like on camera and off camera. Like we had this amazing bonding moment and opportunity to actually connect as human beings in Minneapolis, like as for Target. And she got to see, I think, who I am at my core, and I got to be there. And I was literally selling Gia to the Target employees because she was not feeling well. And I think, you know, that just goes to show, like, I respect the hell out of her. I think what she's doing is elevating the space. I needed a homie in the space that was saying, like, yes, like this category is worthy of putting fire design and great products behind. Her stuff is decidedly like apero in nature. There's so much Mediterranean energy and like bitterness. Her stacks are unique in that way. And then of course we're going bold, a lot of sort of like 70s Americana, frankly.
Yeah.
So we're sort of like the chic French girl, which is Melanie, and then like the crazy, like loud hippie.
Yeah.
Cuban
herbalist.
And we just hang out.
Yeah.
It's like Jane Fonda and what's the show with the old ladies?
I don't really watch any shows with old ladies.
Golden Girls?
Oh my God. I haven't seen it in ages, or else I would say we'll put it in the show notes.
No, it's a beautiful thing that you guys obviously are doing. I agree with you. You guys are doing different things, and it's
also what I'll say, that a little tea.
Yeah.
Nothing brings people closer than a shared enemy.
There you go.
And she and I have been done dirty by so many like little upstart brands, including some that have celebrity attached.
Yeah.
And we have been a united front against tyranny on that end, like no mean girl energy. I mean, you see me on Instagram. Like I am the ultimate hype woman for brands and founders that are doing it right, fucking just putting their own POV. Why? Not because like, oh, good, you're not co-opting. No, because you're offering something unique to the guest. I get up, live, breathe, die by wanting to serve the consumer, the customer, the guest, as we call it at Kin. The guest who wants to drink less or wants another option wherever they go deserves the thing that's going to serve that purpose, no matter what the ritual, no matter what the occasion, no matter what the scene is. And so when there's someone who's like straight up co-opting without any thought,
culture, design,
whoever's getting into this as
community,
purely a cash grab, first of all, they're not winning.
Yeah.
But they're also not serving the guest. And so when I see someone serving the guest, even if they're taking market share from me, it's like, go off. Like, I love it. This is so wonderful. And
I love that you've rebranded consumer to guest.
That rules.
That rules. That's such a Jen thing.
Very, very Kin.
That's very Kin of you. No, I agree with you. You can tell instantly when people are doing it for the right reasons. Yeah. And I hate to use a Bachelor term, here for the right reasons. But like, as you know, we meet a lot of founders.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come through these doors or through these inboxes and these Zoom screens and talk to us about what they want to do. And I always say, you can really tell the ones that are there for the right reasons and with purpose, and because they have something typically that they wanted in the world, or they want other people to have, and it comes from a natural place of wanting to create something for other people.
Totally.
And there are some people that want to create things for their own wealth and say, hey, there's a place in the category for another mattress company.
Sure.
Or maybe an athletic greens competitor.
Yeah.
Or, another sort of seltzer water, and it's like, no one gets inspired by that. No one is excited about that. And no one's going to buy that.
No.
And I think you could tell right away. And I think you're totally right, which is like, you have to earn it, but it's also, you can read through it. And I think Gia's done a great job with their brand. Amazing. And everything that's a part of the brand, the people and everything that they've done is worthy of a competitor. And I think in a way that does help both of the brands. I think having sort of that healthy competition, or at least kind of two options and not just one.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, I want to talk about Bella Hadid.
Oh, Bella.
Because you FaceTime me. I forget when this was or what this was, or, I'm very fortunate that I get a FaceTime or a call from you probably once a year, maybe every other year, since we've met. And you're like, here's what's going on with Kin.
I remember where I was when I was having this conversation.
You were at like some supermarket, or I don't know where you were. You were
I
out.
was walking around in Frenchtown. No, in New Hope in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you were out on the prowl. And you say, so I got some news on Kin. Bella Hadid is joining as co-founder. And I was like, huh? I was like, aren't you the founder? How does that work? And then you're like, well, she made a great deck.
Yeah.
And she pitched me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I was like, Bella Hadid made you a deck? And you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story?
Yeah. Trust me, no one was more blown away than that. So the conversation actually started with Ari Emanuel, who, if anyone's seen Entourage.
Correct. Yeah. He's the real Ari.
He's the
Gold.
real Ari Gold. And
a franchise that's really aged well. And definitely everyone should check it out on HBO.
Yeah. I do not condone or endorse any of the behavior. I haven't seen the show in ages, but Ari is the real deal.
I am Queens Boulevard. Sorry.
I think we need merch
that says I am Queens Boulevard or Entourage. All right. Sorry, I interrupted.
We're derailing. This is classic for us. Okay, so Ari calls and says, and I had noticed already, I was following Bella and she had been promoting Kin, and actually RIP. She was doing a podcast with Virgil Abloh and was like, oh, I have my Kin before I hop on my podcast. And I was just like blown away because I'm like, not only is she doing it right, but she's making it look devastatingly good. Mm-hmm. And I was so blown away, and we weren't affiliated in any way. I wasn't, at this point, I had not paid a single dollar to any influencers. Don't forget, I'm like diehard innovation first type of girl. I'd rather you like tell me my product is absolutely horrendous and learn from that than like pay you $1,500 to be like, this is the most delicious. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know. And so I told Ari very kindly, thanks, but no thanks. I don't have celebrity money. I don't know how to play in this world. I have literally no experience and wouldn't know what to do. And he's like, no, it's nothing like that. Why don't I just make the introduction? Because honestly, in the history of my life doing this work, I've never had someone, especially someone at her level of fame and notoriety and accomplishment, actually put a deck together to explain to me why they thought they'd be great for a brand. And honestly just like want to meet you. And so like allow me to make this meeting happen. And of course I was blown away and had only taken the meeting because I thought I was being punked by a friend. So I was like trying to punk them back. But it turned out to be Ari. And so he made this intro and we fell in love immediately. Like we were like covered in crystal bracelets and like, post meditation, bringing a lot of good energy.
Love at first sight.
It really was like such a collaborative, amazing like spirit from the start. She was so humble. And I think what I had appreciated and recognized by that point, so we got introduced early 2020. She'd already been a Kin fan and drinker for 6 months, at least at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, man, we sort of accidentally, at this point, a lot of media articles were coming out that Gen Z is a sober generation. We had actually accidentally stumbled upon, probably has a lot to do with Natalie and Lars, honestly, and struck a chord with a younger generation. Like when you look at the other NAs on the market, even now, but certainly before, no one was sort of speaking the language of the next generations to come. And I think we really were. And we were giving them vernacular to use. And so Bella was 23 when we met.
Wow.
And so
she's kind of the perfect
the perfect person to bridge the gap.
And I think another thing that happens, like celebrities like her, like are wonderful in ways that like they do connect with a large audience or they sort of have real fans. And I think, but what happens is they're used the wrong way all the time. And so people don't believe them.
Right.
For when they just kind of like, I always think of Kevin Hart because Kevin Hart promotes a lot of things. And so when Kevin Hart is on screen being like, you use this deodorant.
Chasing.
Like whatever. It's like, I don't believe you. But when you have the right person for the right brand, it can be really powerful in catapulting it to a, another level.
Yeah.
Vitamin Water famously had this with 50 Cent, where 50 Cent was an actual fan of the brand. He's from Queens and he was, sort of seen drinking it. And then there was like, hey, do you want to be a part of this thing? And it kind of reminded me of that, where it's like, you just kind of have this like perfect person that you could never imagine would be sort of like down to be a part of it.
Totally.
But it also takes a lot of bravery and courage from your standpoint as someone who had been working on this brand for a long time at that point. And it was not like it was not a success. It was a huge success. It was all over the place. But to be able to sort of say, hey, come on in and let's do this thing together and join the party. And I think it speaks to your sort of, what you were saying before about collaboration and creativity and sort of like bringing people in that, are all here to do one thing, which is to go tell the story.
Yeah. It goes back to what is your definition of success? And like, to me, I've always believed there's a quote and I forget who said it. I just shared it the other day. Success happens in clusters of generosity and sharing ideas. And, for me, it's like never stop coming together behind an idea that is going to better the world. So that was part of it, but it was also just like, I never had my ego tied up in this. I think if I did, there would be so many stumbling blocks. We would not have gotten anywhere near as far as we did if I wanted to center myself.
I'm always centering myself. And I'm also looking.
It's like every time we say centered, drink.
I'm also looking for a co-founder. So any famous people out there? I think it's just amazing. And I think I have just two more things before.
Not only that, but can we just like call a spade? It's like, who's going to say no to Bella Hadid? She was.
I don't know who would or who could, but
wait till you meet her formally,
it's
because
amazing.
She's such a magnetic force, and she's the voice of a generation. She wasn't just a celebrity; she was like on the mic, being like crying into her soup about things that like nobody her age was doing. Like, it gave so much permission to people who didn't feel comfortable sharing their emotions openly.
She's so real.
She's real.
Going back to your point about sort of people stripping away and sort of being the most truthful and honest versions of themselves, like she really represents that. Yeah. Whose idea was it for her to ride a horse with the giant can in Vogue? Because that's maybe my favorite thing that's ever happened.
The giant can was all Casey Mayer.
Who's Casey?
Casey was our creative director at the time. He was with me for like 3 years. And he was like,
we'll have to put this in the...
going to be the iconic moment, and wasn't it? And
riding a horse.
Here's what I'll say. The can was Casey. The horse was Bella.
Okay.
So the coming together of that vision couldn't have been more organic and real. And of course, she's an equestrian. So
yeah, to paint the picture for the folks at home, the announcement of Bella joining Kin was in Vogue, which is very gangster in itself. Bella is riding a horse, no pants on, and has a oversized can of Kin, which is not AI. It's I imagine a real giant can that she's holding.
It was a real giant can.
And it's kind of like between her whole torso because it's so massive.
Yeah.
And it's like unlike any other beverage announcement I've ever seen in any way, shape, or form. And
do you all still have the can?
It's perfect.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
I think it still lives at Rowan Co-Office.
It's perfect.
And she's wearing a white tee, which was not on the shot list. This is such a coming together of just like, we're gonna do whatever the hell is calling us right now. It was actually on her.
Perfect.
On her farm in Pennsylvania. That's
alchemy.
That's right.
My favorite piece of outside of that piece of content that you guys created, my favorite other piece of content you guys did not create, and it is a duo, and they are going to the bodega here in New York, and they're looking for Kin, but they are asking for the Bella Hadid juice. Are you familiar with this famous TikTok? And if so, how do you feel about it?
Very, very. By the way, it's very funny because like we don't get to share this enough. Like the OG Kin fam, they don't like understand they don't care about any of the pop culture stuff.
Yeah. They're more into spiritual.
Yeah. But I saw this video and I was tickled to death.
It's the best
is
thing ever.
So
we'll have
funny.
to put it in the show here because it's a perfect video in every way. And like, I think when you create a brand like you have done, and when you get that feeling that we were talking about before, which is people want to be seen with it, people want to hold it, people want to tell their friends about it, they want to show up to a party with it, they want to order it off a menu, it's going to go places.
Yeah.
And what happens there is not necessarily up to you. No. You just kind of let go and kind of influence people to hopefully continue to love and give them new things to love and more ways to find it.
Yeah. Even our beta stuff. So like I put out a lot of innovation like before it's ready, and I'll just send it off to like people I love and trust their palates and trust their minds to be able to like give me real feedback. And one day, this is how I knew Melanie and I were going to be fast friends. she sent me a photo of kin at a New York bodega, not just any kin, a beta 1.2 version of Kin Bloom, which they were reselling for $7 in a bodega fridge. It was just sitting there like, try this new one.
There you go. I love those kind of beta things where it's like friends and family only. You know, sort of. That's very a very chic, cool thing to do. Brands.
That wasn't my idea either. That was a concept that was perfected by the Soylent guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which, fun fact, my OG co-founder, Matt Cobble, was one of the 4 amigos from Soylent. So he very much brought that mentality of like, build it as you fly it, build it with your customer, with your guest. And beta, we've been doing kin beta since 2017.
Well, I just want to say congratulations, Jen. Like, I think the last time I saw you, you were like dripping in sort of like sparkles and diamonds. And I was just Jen, you fucking did it. Like, you really did. And I think, like I said, we meet all sorts of founders, but like, I think what you've built with this brand is just so spectacular.
Thank you.
And I will be forever proud to have played a very small role in being a part of it. And thank you for doing that. But also just like, it's such a magical brand in so many ways. And I know how hard it is and how much work goes into it to get all those things right. It's 1,000 decisions like a month to get those things. And one bad decision can change everything. And I think you've just made all the right ones. And that's the thing other people don't understand about branding. It's like, it's not just like, we made it good and now it's just, put it on shelves. It's like every day it's a living, breathing thing. Yeah. And it goes with every, sort of collaboration. It goes with every restaurant. It goes with every single product that you put out, and every single one of them for me is just best, world class.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Seriously.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for coming in on our show. Before you go, I have one last thing I need to say. You've created something spectacular and a movement that, to be honest, makes people feel comfortable and makes people feel safe in ways to sort of not drink.
Yeah.
We need to put some bars on blast that are now serving non-alcoholic beverages for the same prices, if not more, of cocktails. This is a particular bone that I need to pick with places. They're taking advantage of your movement, Jen. And they're taking advantage of people because they're serving $19 non-alcoholic cocktails. Thoughts, feelings?
Your thoughts.
Yeah. How do you feel, Jen?
Here's the thing. That was happening long before we came on the scene. I will say Saxon and Parole, shout out to them. I know they have, a stellar award-winning menu, cocktail specifically. And the guys behind that, the guy in particular I'm thinking about is a cocktail genius. What I'll say is, even when, this is 2016, I was just trying this lifestyle on for size. I would go and get a $16, $17 mocktail from Saxon and Parole.
Okay.
And sitting next to my friend Noelle, who's a nutritionist, she'd be like, dude, there's 30 grams of sugar in there. Like, you are replacing...
You're just drinking pineapple juice with a rosemary on the top for $17.
You are replacing one neurotoxin for another. Can we please stop? So I think when I was doing myself a disservice and I thought I was doing something good, that $17 hurt worse than when I'm reaching for something intentional and something that's actually going to benefit me, which is honestly the catalyst for me being so hell-bent on putting actual nutritionals and liposomes and like all these things that actually make the ingredients work and work for you. So I think like the pricing is a factor of newness and the difficulty of scaling. Yeah. Well, you can hide it in the cocktail pricing strategy, right? I think it just fits the bill. I agree with you though. I want them to be more accessible, and I have to give credit where credit's due. If you go to Super Bueno, recently named the #2 bar in the nation, okay, Nacho, the owner, is a freaking, talk about G. This man is a legend.
Where is this?
It's in the East Village.
Oh, I only stay in Greenpoint.
No, this is worth the journey.
Okay.
This is worth the journey.
They got
I
good
promise
non-alcoholic beverages.
Not only is it a vibe, his mocktail menu is next level beats, and the drinks are $12. I think that's a very respectable price for a well-crafted drink.
Super bueno.
Yeah, it's super bueno.
When you put things into your body that are good for you. That's a way to summarize an hour and a half conversation. When you do you ever say fuck it? And if so, burgers, ice cream, candy, bonbon. What are Jen Batchelor's guilty pleasures?
Yeah, I mean bonbons for sure. You just watched me eat 6 of them.
Yeah, but what else? What
but
else?
I don't.
What do we get into?
But see, that I don't think is a fall off the rails type of behavior. Like for me, again, let's go back to the Ayurvedic principles of pleasure and living. Mm-hmm. They say 80% of what you eat should be clean and nourishing, and they should do something great for you. And 20% should just be about pleasure and fun. Mm-hmm. And I totally follow that principle. Now it's sort of second nature. But I do think that there is room for pleasure and sensuality. I don't take pleasure and sensuality from alcohol, but I would also say I'm not religious or maniacal or extreme about literally anything in my life. So I don't feel guilty about like having a french fry, and I'm okay with it being like on the side of a Caesar salad.
Yeah.
You hear that here. Go for the Caesar salad, but get the side of fries.
Get the side of fries always.
I mean, listen, that's what life is about. It's about balance, and it's about centering yourself.
But see, like if you try to balance something 80-20, you'd fall over. So that's the thing. It's like it's
bars.
It's about
that's just math.
Choosing your wild, choosing your pleasure, and allowing it to serve you, not totally overtake your life. If your pleasure principle or your pleasure equation is like 80% of my life, I'm falling off the rails, and then 20% I'm trying to get it together, like you're going to fail every single time because something is taking over your daily true sustainable joy.
Well,
yes or no? It's the hard truth.
That's a beautiful place to end this interview. Thank you, Jen. Honestly, like I said, congrats on your success. And I can't wait to see where Kin goes from here, because I just don't know where it's so massively big and exciting, that Target, and where does it go from here?
Here's what I'll say, honestly. I think we've enjoyed such an incredible ride, and Kin has been such a supernova for the rest of the category to rise the F up around this idea, around this lifestyle, around these guests, that if it then exploded into oblivion and just was reabsorbed by the galaxies, I would be happy. So the fact that it's even made it to Target shelves is like one of these moments for me where I'm like, and go, little bird.
That's a beautiful thing. And then we launch the next bird.
And then we launch
debauchery.
Yeah, you got to balance it out.
Yeah, we got to balance.
Yeah. Prison mate. Yeah. Like the next drink is like
Four Loco, but crazier. Pure alcohol in a can.
I will say the Four Loco founder is an investor in Kin. So you actually never know where this brand's going to go, and that's what makes it so special. So it's anyone's guess.
Yes.
Follow the money. Awesome. It's anyone's guess. Larger format probably is the next big thing.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Larger format. Can't wait to see it.
Why not?
Thank you so much.
You guys rock. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. All right, bye.
See ya.